Don't fuck up. Don't fuck yourself. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Rude Cooking School podcast. I'm your host, John Hauser III. Today is a guest day, as you can see from the headline that you're reading on your phone, tablet, TV. Who knows? These things go out to all kind of places I don't even realize. It could be on like your compute, like your microwave, probably. I don't know. Is it in the newspaper? If you're listening in the year 2175, probably. I'm dead, but who cares? We have a guest. She is a cook. She's an advocate. She's a writer. She's an author. She's a public speaker. She is a farmer's daughter. Her name is Amy Myrdal Miller. How you doing?
Hey, John, I'm doing great today. It's about 140 degrees cooler in Northern California than it was a few days ago. Fall has finally found us.
Nice. That's great. It's finally fall here in Baltimore, Maryland as well. It's been a gloomy 60 and I love it.
Ah, perfection. That's good crab eating weather, right?
You know what? It's always good crab eating weather. No matter what the weather is. 1,000 degrees, good. Well, I don't know. Like winter, that's when you go to crab soup, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And here in Northern California, everybody does their fundraising through crab feeds. So you could go to crab feeds here like 6 days a week.
Is it Jonah crab?
No, Dungeness.
Dungeness, okay.
Dungeness, yeah.
So you got all those delicious crab claws.
Yep.
Yeah. The last time I had crabs was about a month and a half ago. It's about time to get one more in before it really, turns into fall proper.
Awesome.
So have you ever had Baltimore style steamed crabs?
Yeah, no, I went to a crab feed, where the tables are covered with the newspaper and you're cracking your way through them and getting messy. That was fantastic. But the thing I love most about visiting Baltimore is when you get a crab cake and you can actually see big chunks of crab in it versus nothing but breadcrumbs. Yeah. You guys just kill it with crab cakes out there.
Yeah. And God forbid you put anything weird in a crab cake around here. People will lose their damn minds. Christ, I still haven't heard the end of it. I think at one point in the early aughts, the New York Times put out a recipe and I think they put fucking green pepper or something in it. Or Jesus. People lost their minds. It's hilarious. People really, Baltimore's a weirdly insular city with a perception that we get sort of shaft because we're in between DC and New York,
Yeah.
So people take umbrage to all kind of goofy things, especially culinarily.
There's a bakery here in Sacramento that does sourdough bread, and my friends from San Francisco come into town and openly shaming us, for thinking we could even do sourdough.
Yeah. It's silly. It's so dumb. It's just like when anyone from New York comes down here, they're like, you don't even know what pizza is. It's like, you know what? I've been to New York. The pizza's not that great. It's thin crust. Good for you. It's really the ambiance that what it is, So I've gone through a couple websites. I've read some of your stuff. It's a lot of fun to read. I'm just going to start with how is it that people do not think potatoes are vegetables?
God, my God, why are you triggering me? That's a really good question.
That was one of those things I was reading going, if I was writing this, my head would explode.
Yeah. No, there's been a lot going on. Poor potatoes, people think of them as white foods, and apparently the devil created all the white foods. But no, I work for this organization, that 125-year-old Dutch potato breeding company, and we've been doing research with Gen Zs, and 1 out of 4 goes, no, it's not a vegetable. We do these online surveys. And I'm like, well, what do you think it is? And they're like, I don't know. Is it like rice? Is it like pasta? And I'm like, no, it's like a vegetable. So that issue makes me crazy. But
yeah,
John, the thing that made me super crazy is there are researchers up in Boston. I'm not going to name the school, at least not yet, right? Take a few more shots of whiskey before I get into it.
Exactly.
But no, they've been lobbying the United States Department of Agriculture to change the classification. And I'm like, to a starch product to make it similar for like U.S. dietary policy coming out of the government to say that a potato is just like bread or rice or pasta. And when I first heard this, I thought somebody was trying to punk me. But apparently USDA, like the rational folks in DC, have said, everybody settle down. We're going to keep vegetables, and we're going to back on this shenanigans. But yeah, see how you triggered me? You want me to keep going? I
no,
can get wild.
It was wild reading. Like, I get it. People are dumb. Or uninformed, especially about food. There's so much misinformation. A lot of it has to do with how you grew up. I never ate fresh asparagus until I had my first culinary job when I was 16, right? It always came out of a can when I was growing up. But I can understand how people are uninformed. But something as basic as like, oh, I don't think it's a vegetable. Like, it's really strange to me. I'm not surprised, but it's always shocking when something as simple as that is like so misconstrued.
Yeah, and then the other sad thing about potatoes is it's when you survey Americans, like, what vegetables do you love most? This is research out of Data Essential, the big food service, research firm. Time and time again, people say, man, I love potatoes. Like 98% of people say it's their favorite vegetable. The only folks who don't tend to be Asian. Okay. But then people, when you talk about like your emotions associated with food, they feel guilty eating potatoes. Like, what have we done to people in this country to make them feel bad about eating a vegetable that they love?
Well, I think in that case, most of the time it's because most people's consumption of potatoes is in the form of French fries, which is deep fried, right?
True, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'll be the first to tell you, embrace that form of crispy on the outside, steamed on the inside, potato perfection, right?
Sure. But over the years, everything in moderation. If you eat French fries every day, not going to be great for you. You shouldn't be eating French fries every day anyway. Like, that's not how food should work. Right. But we've been taught that anything deep fried is inherently evil, not understanding that, yeah, there's some oil in it, but for the most part, as long as you don't eat it every day, it's perfectly fine for you to eat.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just the more variety in your eating pattern, the more fruits and vegetables you're enjoying, the more of all types of foods, the better off you're going to be. I'm a registered dietitian, so I could get all wonky about nutrients and whatnot. Sure. But I really like to focus on enjoyment and what's the beauty in front of you. What's the experience you're having with people you love who make you laugh or swear. God bless the in-laws. So I think, this country, we've got to get a handle on how we think about food and eating patterns versus all of this shame and guilt and, perfection. It's the enemy of good, right?
Absolutely. I also think that, like, one thing that, I've done cooking classes for people. I instruct people. I've written about how to cook and, that kind of thing in the past. And one thing that I'm always, even when I was in culinary school, one thing I was always shocked at is the shock that, and the like, not wanting to look at or touch food in its natural form, right? Like fish with its head on it, chicken whole, right? Chicken with its skin on. Like, oh, what do I do with this? Well, you break it down. It's okay. It's not going to kill you. You can actually eat the head. The cheeks are delicious of a fish, like that kind of thing. I think a lot of people really need to get over. Like, if you just think everything's either chicken nuggets or, a full chicken, you got to get over it or don't eat it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the biggest joy killers for me is going out to eat with somebody who talks about the food the whole time, but not in a way of, man, I love this. I wonder what seasonings they put on this. Man, the chef killed it with the technique. But like, oh, I wonder, and like, why did they do this? And I wonder if this chicken had a happy life and his name was Jimbo. And and you're just like, stop, just savor the moment. Let's talk about something that matters to us. Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting to see how people deal with food in terms of, not even just a social situation, but just, again, going back to giving cooking classes, which I'm sure you've probably done in the past, right? Like trying to teach people how to butcher a chicken, and they're just afraid to touch it. It's like, it's okay. Like, should we be wearing gloves? No. That's why we all washed our hands before we started cooking. Your hands are perfectly fine. It can touch the food. Just don't stick it in your mouth and then wash your hands after you're done, Or God forbid you watch a video on YouTube or Facebook where somebody's prepping food and people are like, I would never eat that. They're not wearing gloves. It's like, they wash their hands. They're in their house. Like, it's okay. And you're also not going to eat it anyway. So stop complaining. It's so weird.
One of my favorite cooking experiences, like teaching people how to cook. I used to work for the Culinary Institute of America here in the Napa Valley, and we did a conference for physicians and other healthcare professionals. And one of the recommendations we made is, hey, you're coming into the Napa Valley for like 4 or 5 days. Take the pre-conference knife skills course. If you've never held a knife before, like do this so that you feel more competent in our kitchens. You know how to handle knives, keep them sharp, care for them in your home kitchen. And I got calls or emails from surgeons who were like, do you think I need to do this? And I'm like, can you handle a scalpel? You're probably going to be okay. But hey, you're here to get CME credit in this glorious setting. Come on in. But then we would have them doing exactly what you said. They can cut into human bodies, but they were squeamish about, the fish and chicken. So yeah, it is really interesting how we view food and how we think about food and can compartmentalize, things in our life.
It's really interesting because I would actually think that they would need the prep of learning to hold a chef's knife, because a scalpel's so thin and light. And that probably feels really lunky, and the balance and like learning how to, hold the bolster, that kind of thing. Like
that's a good
having
point.
The technique, which doctors are all about technique anyway, that kind of thing. And also they probably don't cut human bodies with their fingers tucked underneath. Oh my God.
Good point. And God, let's hope so, right?
Can we have somebody do that in a comedy or something where the doctor's like a fucking gastronome, and when he cuts into people, he puts his fingers underneath. I just look good, proper technique, everybody.
Yeah.
So the Culinary Institute of America. So you're on when you worked there, you were on the West Coast. You weren't in Hudson Valley.
Right. So I was based here in Northern California, but I also did work for the Hudson Valley campus, the Texas campus, and Singapore. So I got a lot of really cool experiences during my 14 years with the college.
Oh, that's awesome. I took culinary school. I went up there and took a small class in baking.
Awesome.
And had such a great time. It's so nice up there, like so beautiful, and Christ, every restaurant's amazing. Like even
because it's all former grads who've gone out and started their own. Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, when was that? I took that class in like 2005 or something like that. That was a while ago.
Good for you.
Yeah. So you work for a consulting group now, right? Are you the owner?
I am the owner and founder. Yeah. So back when I was
Farmer's Daughter.
Yep. Farmer's Daughter Consulting. Back when I was at the CIA, I met with one of my mentors. I was at a conference in DC, and he said, "How you doing, kid?" And I said, "Well, the stress of the job's kind of wearing on me. I'm thinking about going out on my own." And he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I think I want to do consulting for companies that want to work with the food service industry. And I want to kind of build that bridge between people in agriculture growing and producing all this food and the people in restaurants and big operations using the food, kind of build bridges of understanding." And he said, "I think there's opportunity there for you. What are you thinking of calling your business?" And I said, "Well, I want to call it Farmer's Daughter Consulting." He slammed the table in like this busy DC restaurant hard enough that people at other tables were looking over like, did somebody's head just drop? Is somebody die at the next table? And he goes, "Stop talking, go back to your room and file the trademark on that. That's going to be golden." And it's probably the best advice I ever got, because it's a name where people go, "God, that's so clever. How'd you come up with it?" not that clever, people. I really am a farmer's daughter, grew up in North Dakota. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun doing this work since 2014 now, almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, because mainly consulting firms are like P&L or, the business group, it's always like, oh gosh. So, I mean, with the farmer's daughter, you kind of understand right off the bat sort of what it's about, and you know, and can you explain a little bit about what you all do at the Farmer's Daughter Consulting?
Yeah, a lot of it is strategic communications consulting, and that sounds a little wonky. So I'll give you a more specific example. That Dutch potato breeding client that I mentioned, it's a 125-year-old company. They sell seed potatoes all over the world to farmers who then grow the commercial potatoes that you might buy in a grocery store or a chef might get in his or her back kitchen. So that company they wanted to grow their business here in the US and Canada. And they said, we think the way in is through food service, but we want people not just to use more potatoes, but to better understand the traits of our specific varieties that have real benefits, both for the grower, for the environment, and for that end consumer, the person enjoying it at home or in a restaurant. So they came to me and said, can you help us? And one of the blessings of having worked at the CIA, not spies, but recipes, Culinary Institute, is that I have all these connections with folks in the food service industry. So I started, making calls, put together a culinary council for them of folks from different sectors to give advice on their needs. What are the operational challenges? Today, I'm helping them build an app that is specifically for chefs, food service professionals, and procurement professionals so that they can learn more about potatoes, the specific traits, where they can buy them. Cool. I've helped them build a website, build a brand that's kind of around the education side of this business. So that's just one example.
What's the company called?
Well, thanks for asking.
Sure.
So the entity in the Netherlands is called the Royal HZPC Group. They just got that designation, 125 years in business in the Netherlands, and you can apply to get that special designation.
Oh, wow.
And then here in the US, it's HZPC Americas Corp, based out of Prince Edward Island, Canada.
Yeah, I like their oysters. What's the kind of potato? Is it does it have a specific name?
Well, another phenomenal question. They sell hundreds of different varieties, but here in the US, the challenge is, how are potatoes labeled? You got your russets, reds, yellows, fingerlings, creamers, right? So within that, we have a variety called Ricky russet, and that's a russet potato that has a slightly thinner skin and a really creamy, buttery interior. So it's the perfect baked potato. You don't need to load it with a ton of stuff to make it taste delicious because it already is creamy and buttery. There's another one called Columba that has a very thin skin. It's yellow skin, yellow flesh. It uses 30% less water than other varieties, which makes it, for growers, especially here in the West, where we're, drought stricken year after year, requires less water. We have one called Fenway Red skin, white flesh, kind of the perfect potato to use in a seafood boil because it holds its shape well after cooking. Sure. So those are just a few examples of the varieties that we're bringing forward and helping, these chefs and other influencers learn about. So
when I'm not interviewing someone, the way the format of this podcast goes is normally there's 3 episode types. There's the interview type that we're doing now. We do a bi-weekly food news, which is just, I find the goofiest shit that's happening in the food world and sort of report on that for about an hour. And then there are our normal episodes that we sort of started with, which is I pick one sort of topic and it's usually pretty broad. So it could be potatoes. And I did a potato episode and it ran, probably about 2.5 hours or something like that. And, going into all of the different types and styles. And, I knew that there was more than, just the couple that were out there, but going through it was really interesting. And so we also do a history of the potato from BC to, usually we stop it around 1920s, 1930s, when everything industrialization really kicks in and kind of ruins all food until we start again, probably like in like 1995, like Alice Waters kind of kicks everybody's ass out of the primordial ooze again, that kind of deal. And the potato episode was really, really interesting. And I feel like now that I'm a couple years down the road from that, I have a list of like, all right, I should go back and retry that. And back when I was first doing it, potato, like we would always end with like a weird mythology or a weird story about the thing we were talking about. Like with peas, there was a guy who thought he had lung cancer and they were going to operate on him. And when they operated on him, because they thought he had, a tumor, he had a pea embedded in his lung and it was growing and it was coming, it had sprouted and it was coming out because
wow,
the air was coming up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
wow.
it was trying to make it towards the light, which is crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, stuff like that. And, I think I remember the potato was something very witchy. It was a witchcraft kind of thing. And it was like, if you take a potato and carve a thing into it, and put it under somebody's house at the time, you would think they'd fall in love with you or some kind of thing like that. But yeah, I love stuff like that. That's great. So you also do that. You do, consulting and bringing farmers. So one thing that people don't know, and you know this better than I do. Like I know a zillion chefs. I don't work in the industry, even though I went to culinary school. I've had dozens and dozens of chefs on the episodes, but some chefs don't really know the difference between things like that. And bringing farmers and chefs together is a really beautiful thing because in the end, it just benefits the person at the dining table, because when the chef understands their product better, they make a better end product.
Yeah, I mean, the work that we're doing, the brand that is doing this work, the public facing brand, is called Potato Glory. And we want everybody to have a glorious experience with potatoes. So, that young line cook in the back having a consistent experience with potatoes because they have sourced the same variety with the same traits that work with the same, equipment time after time again. And you have this predictability. And then for the diners in that operation, they're getting a consistently great experience. Like, let's talk about fresh cut French fries. When they're great, they are so memorable. And when they suck, you want to spit them out of your mouth and tell the chef to fuck himself because you've had this limp, horrible, or you get a fresh cut fry that's made with potatoes that haven't been stored properly and they get what are called burnt ends because of how sugars convert. I mean, there's so much, and people have taken potatoes for granted, right?
Right.
They've been this amazing part of food systems. And now, with how the value system here in the US just talks about them as russets are russets. No, they're not. There's very different traits. So there's a lot of opportunity. But going back to your original question, that triggered me, that, 1 out of 4 consumers don't believe potatoes are even a vegetable. There's a lot of opportunity here for me and my business to contribute to this and to bring in a lot of other people to help create this kind of network of passionate people, who care about people's vegetable consumption, care about great dining experiences, care about, the health and well-being of people behind, back of house doing work in these kitchens. So,
yeah. And what are some of the challenges that like farmers and producers and processors, like what kind of stuff do they like? What are the roadblocks for them to get this kind of educational, this info out?
Well, I mean, time and, there actually aren't a lot of farmers who do this direct communication. They do it through entities like commodity boards and marketing orders. So another entity that I work for is called the Buy California Marketing Agreement. We represent around 400 specialty crops grown here in California. We represent the California Grown brand. It's kind of our iconic blue and gold license plate that says CA Grown. And we become the distributors of information and inspiration for folks in food service, retail, consumers. We do it through a lot of different channels and means, because if you're like a grower of say organic berries that you're taking from like a 1 acre farm into San Francisco to sell to chefs each day, you don't have time to be, other than with your customers to say, here's what I've got available for you today.
Yeah.
I'll get the truck to you, by 5 a.m. So our work is critically important on behalf of, small, medium, and large growers here in California, because they're doing the hard work in the field, in the packing sheds, in the processing centers. And we're out there sharing their stories, sharing science and fact-based information, quelling all the fear mongering that goes on.
Yeah. And as listeners of the podcast know, pretty much everything, every type of fruit and vegetable is pretty much grown in California. Like there's so much. There's so much. Like it's insane. We go back to it constantly of like who grows the most in the country, and California is always at the top, or who grows the most in the world, and it's like, okay, China, and then you go down, and the amount of crops grown in California is staggering, just because the state's so big and it goes from warm to cold. The climate changes so much up the coast.
I have a very fun fact for you and your audience. The California Central Valley is about 450 miles long and about 40 to 60 miles wide. Okay.
Yeah.
It represents less than 1% of US farmland, but it produces 25% of our food.
That's insane.
And it's just for what you said. We've got the climate, the soil conditions, most years access to enough water. We've got very high producing, crops where California is number one in the state and in the world. Things like almonds, walnuts, pistachios, huge dairy industry. It is overwhelming the productivity of California farmers.
Wine. Yeah, I mean, wine.
Glug, glug, glug.
Yeah, totally. Like, wine up on the West Coast. So it's like, California, Oregon, Washington, kinda, a little bit Washington. Not as, I mean, Washington's known, but everyone knows Napa. Everyone knows Willamette Valley, stuff up there. And it's so cool. And there's just like, you're in a perfect place to sort of promote all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real blessing when you're kind of a food nerd and an agriculture nerd. This is Nerdvana here. All these crops to talk about, all these people to learn from. I'm a UC Davis graduate, which is, our ag school in the States. So I got a lot of folks who are former professors or colleagues who, I can call them and say, I need to better understand like this new technology that's going into like robotic grape harvesting. Can I go out and see it? Can I learn about it? Can I watch these robots that are weeding in the Salinas Valley in the lettuce fields? I mean, it's so fun looking at the innovation. Yeah.
Is it Davis that has the beer program?
Yes.
Yeah. A buddy of mine who's been on the show, who owns a brewery here in Baltimore, a couple blocks up street, Dave Carpenter. He owns Mobtown Brewing. He was in Baltimore. He lives a couple blocks from me. Packed his whole family up, and for 2 years went away, moved over there, did the course, and rented his house out, and then came back, moved back, and then opened a brewery 4 blocks from my house right here.
God, I hope he was there when Professor Charlie Bamforth was still there. He was the Anheuser-Busch Endowed Professor of Brewing Science. He's from England, and he is so damn funny and knowledgeable about beers from all over the world and, the science of brewing.
What's his name?
It's Charlie Bamforth.
Okay, I'll ask him.
He'd be a great person for you to talk to because he is wicked funny.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I did an episode with Dave, and we started having a few beers, and I had to turn it into a 2-parter because we went almost 4 or 5 hours just talking about beer making, because his passion like just literally overflows, right? And to move your family just to become a brewer, because he was like an architect or something beforehand, and was just like, this doesn't make me happy. And his dad sadly passed away, but before his dad passed away, he said, look, do what you want to do in your life, live your life, be happy, do the thing you want to do. And he was like, all right, I'm going to do it. So Yeah, it's pretty great. He makes amazing beers too. It's pretty great. Yeah,
Ugh.
one of my favorites. It's like an Italian Pilsner. And I don't even really like Pilsners, and it's amazing. It's called Pasta Water. It's really, really good.
That is
Yeah,
a fantastic name.
it's a great name for a pasta
Yeah.
for beer. Um, so you've also written books. Obviously, you write articles for what is it? The Produce on the Menu for
So,
Produce Business Magazine. Is that
yeah,
what
that's my monthly column called Produce on the Menu for Produce Business Magazine. I think I've been doing that like 9 years now.
The
Really
school
fun.
lunch, the school lunch thing that I read, I think it was your last article, right?
The one that just published this month is on food is medicine, one of my least favorite
Okay.
phrases today. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
probably the school lunch one was probably the August back to
That
school.
was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
have that sort of thing going on in Baltimore City where lunch is free across the board, and they're trying to like, okay, how do we just not give, okay, here's your apple that you're going to throw away every day. You know what I mean? And to train the lunch people in the ways of actually just not cutting open a bag and putting it in a steam table, right?
Yep.
To actually learn how to sort of properly cook and handle food. Like that's been an obstacle towards moving to healthier lunches, but they're getting there. I think they're in like year 3 of this now, and it's interesting. It's good to see that California is doing that, but that's statewide. I don't think Maryland as a state is doing that right now.
I think there's now 3 states that are doing it statewide who just, California was the first, and then a couple others have rolled into it. And, there's a lot to be proud of because when the state assembly and Senate here, was putting forth the legislation for this, it wasn't just that we're going to mandate, these free meals and take federal dollars to fund it. The state put in funding to support this. So there was enhanced funds available for food, funds available for like training so that more people working in school nutrition programs could know how to handle and cook and prepare foods in delicious ways. There were grants for equipment that you need to do more food preparation in schools. And then there's a lot of, there's independents who are doing it really well. And then there are big entities like Sodexo Education, based right there in Maryland, who, have been very thoughtful about what are the recipes we're going to create in collaboration with partners like in produce. If we're going to do roasted sweet potatoes for students, we don't need somebody, a union employee getting $28 an hour in San Francisco to be peeling sweet potatoes all morning. We need to bring in the value added diced sweet potatoes, but then teach them how to do a seasoning blend and maybe an extra virgin olive oil, vegetable oil blend, toss it, roast it, give kids something that's delicious, craveable, and is fairly easy to prepare on a big scale.
Like an industrial meal kit.
Exactly. Right. So it takes a lot of people who care and a lot of people who are good at working with these super narrow margins in school meals. I'm amazed at what people are doing out there in terms of school nutrition today.
Yeah, it stinks where it got to with school lunches and the food. Like I remember food wasn't even good when I was in high school in the early 90s. But like, there's always a thing that goes around where people are like, here's lunch in Japan, and here's lunch for kids in Denmark, and here's lunch in England, and then here's lunch in America. And everybody's like, oh, boo. But nobody wants to back it or fund it. And it's like, well, it costs money. Like, that's a thing. You need to, and there's people that need to get trained and prepped. Like, I think people still think that lunch, the people that work in kitchens in schools are actually trained as cooks, and they're not. Like a lot of schools don't even have kitchens. They just have an area set beside the cafeteria where they just kind of set the food. They have refrigerators, right? Like, and sort of tables, but they don't have burners.
Well, I think for anybody out there listening going, really, has school meal changed since I was in school 10, 20, 30 years ago, whatever? There's this Facebook group called School Meals That Rock. And it's school nutrition leaders from all across the country sharing photos of what they're putting forth, sharing photos of their buffet lines, of what trays look like, of what's happening in their kitchens as they're doing prep. So School Meals That Rock was put forth by one of my dietitian colleagues to showcase that what you think school food has changed. And there's a lot of leaders out there doing it really well,
That's awesome.
Really thoughtfully with kids' best interest at heart.
I just wrote that down, and I'm definitely going to add myself to that because I love stuff like that. Like
Awesome.
it gives me hope, like we don't, our son goes to school, pretty close to us. And, the food's not terrible. We'll let him eat. We make his lunches anyway, like, cause whatever, but, we'll let him, a lot of times he'll be like, they had burgers and it smelled really good. And it's like, okay, dude, that's fine,
Yeah.
But it's always, if you take a lunch and you take the fruit, eat the fruit. Don't throw the fruit away, like,
Yeah.
and that's a big problem where he's like, yeah, everybody just takes the fruit. Then they have a table where if they don't want the fruit, they don't throw it away. All the kids put it on a table. And
Yep.
then that's, donated or whatever, because it's already technically been used, I guess. And, oh, children, when will you eat your fruit?
Yeah. Yeah.
You were speaking about food as medicine, which you don't like that term, but that sort of goes to the book that you co-authored, right?
John, no.
What? No?
So, well, the book was not
not as
with
medicine,
that.
but I'm talking in terms of health.
Okay. Yes. Fair enough. I got a little wild there. Sorry. Yes.
No. Well, why? Let's go. Why were you upset? What was it?
Okay. So the book that I co-authored is called Cooking a la Heart. It was published in February. And as the publisher likes me to say, it's available everywhere books are sold, but we all know the one source where you can guarantee finding it, the big A.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the book was written with the focus on cardiovascular wellness. How do you keep your heart, your entire cardiovascular system healthy? How do you keep your brain healthy, age well without getting dementia? But we never were thinking about like finger wagging, deprivation, food is medicine. It's about easy, delicious recipes that you're going to enjoy making because they don't make you nuts with too much, special ingredients or techniques or equipment that you put in front of yourself, your family, your friends, and people go, this is really great. And you don't even have to tell you, hey, this was made with better health in mind. Because for a lot of people, they immediately think, I'm not going to like this. Yeah. I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to love it. And one of the principles in there that I try to get people to get away from is it doesn't have to be low fat to be good for you. Traditional Mediterranean diet is more than 40% calories from fat from things like extra virgin olive oil,
lots of olive
nuts,
oil, fish oils. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to we've been told that fat is bad. You have to, starve yourself or, keep things away from yourself. You can't, it's either one or the other, right? And it has to be about balance, and it has to be about like, just, again, can't eat French fries every day, right? Yep. But also learning to cook. I'm a big proponent. Like, one of the reasons I started doing this is, teaching people to cook, I think, is a moral stance that we all have to have. Like, learning to cook is really, really important. And not, it's okay to open a box every now and then, but like most of the time you should be cooking relatively from scratch. It's okay to add things in there, like, pre-made chicken at the stores that's been roasted, one of those rotisserie joints. Great way to start. That thing can go in so many directions. You don't have to roast a whole chicken by yourself. It's fine. But like, pre-made powdered sauces and things like that, I don't believe in them, right? But learning how to cook, and it doesn't have to be fancy. Simple a lot of the times is better. Just roast. It's proper technique. It's learning to roast, learning how to saute, learning how, when things are done or when things are overdone. And the problem with that is a lot of times it's just trial and error. You just learn what you like. I prefer my green beans cooked a little longer than my wife does, that kind of thing, which is the truth. My wife loves a crispy green bean. And a lot of times I'm just like, man, can we just cook those damn things?
Well, your point about, the power of being able to cook, Linda and I, when we were developing, what this book was going to look like, we both glommed onto the idea of simply cooked recipes that are like the building blocks. Like if you pick up a copy of Cooking All the Heart and you got this trepidation, like, I don't know where to start, go through the simply cooked recipes and pick one as your starting point to build some of that kitchen confidence. Man, and after you've, nailed something like simply cooked black beans, then go down the path of making the Mexican inspired black bean soup, and you've got this phenomenal soup that you can freeze, you can reheat. You've got something that you can garnish with some crema, some, diced onions, cilantro. You could, make it a little thicker, not put in as much water. And all of a sudden you've got a filling for a burrito or an omelet.
Yeah.
You could go off in so many directions. You've got a black bean dip with some tortilla chips. You got friends over on the weekend. You add in some of the pico de gallo, or one of the guacamole recipes. Just find a place to start and then figure out what works for you. I have a niece who's also a cookbook author, and her first venture into this was, how do you take Sunday afternoon as a young millennial and you make like 4 or 5 things? You spend a couple hours, you do some prep, you make them, and throughout the week, you got these different customizable bowls. And she was a single person at the time living on her own and was just like wildly appreciative of this approach for herself. And, then her friends started mimicking it. And I just applauded that because I know what my favorite recipes are in the book, and people are like, well, what should I make? And then I turn back to them and I say, what do you love? What do you love to eat? What are you curious about learning how to make? Let me help you and guide you. But anyway, I'd love to think the world was all about me. But it's probably
no, because it's all about me.
Well, that's what I was thinking, John. Exactly. And there's 3 of you wandering around the planet, right? I've got version 3.0.
Yeah, the 4.0 is upstairs. Yeah, no, actually it's just 3 and 4. Yeah. But there are actually a couple John Hauser the thirds. It's really weird.
So you're not a clone. I'm teasing you. I do appreciate. Yeah.
There's a doctor somewhere in the South that's John Hauser the third. There's a few of us. It's really weird.
All right. Let's hope John Hauser the third, the doctor in the South, isn't a surgeon dicing and mincing human body.
I hope he is. Yeah.
Liver.
but like you've seen it, like when someone learns how to cook, like the look on their face when they actually do the thing, when they chop an onion for the first time properly, or not even properly, they just chop an onion for the first time and they feel like, oh, it's that easy. It's like, yeah, man, that, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Like I had a buddy who was like, I have a son, he's like 13. Like, I don't want to spend like a ton of money, like sending him to get to cooking classes and stuff like that. And like, what should I do? And I was like, well, you can just have him work for free at a restaurant. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, they'll make him a prep cook. He'll just learn to cook, cut up onions, chop up mushrooms. Like you learn like knife skills. Knife skills are life skills, baby. Like that's what you do, right? Like once you learn how to do that, how restaurants are. They're like, all right, well, you're just kind of sitting around. Let me show you how to do this. And then all of a sudden you're cooking on the line or prepping salads or learning how to make salad dressing. Like they'll make sure your kid learns.
Love it.
That's what happened to me. I was a dishwasher and, all of a sudden the prep cook didn't show up and John, we need you to, cut up, 75 pounds of onions. Like what?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. My first job was 13 and I was a catering assistant at a Bible camp for a woman that everybody called the General. And my first job, the first day, was to make 200 pancakes. And I was just plopping down the batter randomly on
she scared the hell out of you, didn't she?
She's like, no, we need efficiency. Boom, 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 boom. This is how you line it up. This is how you do it. She also told me that day as I rolled in 3 minutes late, she goes, listen, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're fired. Get here 10 minutes early tomorrow or you're fired. She's still in my brain to this day. Yeah. I still show up everywhere extra early because I'm like, I don't want to get yelled at by the General.
Yeah, same. Yeah, my first kitchen job was in 93, 92, 93. And, the height of just how when restaurants, people's feelings were getting hurt all over the place. Let's put it that way. Things were thrown, words were yelled. And I was just a young kid, like, what is this? Okay, I'll do whatever you say. Just don't yell at me. And, that's a terrible way to learn, but I learned. And then they stopped yelling at me because I learned. So then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I just got to learn. But yeah, like I think doing is probably the best way to learn how to cook and stuff like that. But with a book like yours, where there is a starting point, a lot of people get intimidated by cookbooks a lot of time because, you know, they're looking at the wrong cookbooks or they're reading the wrong magazines where, it might be a little over their pay grade in how good they are at cooking, and like to start trying to make birria tacos, like probably not the best thing to start with. There's a lot of steps. There's a lot of techniques that if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Right. So if you
So,
start simple and start with something that one is simple and two is good for you, and you don't, you know, the good part is important because that's what keeps you going. Just
right.
because you're learning, if you cook something that's terrible, you're not going to want to do it again. Right.
I think, that fear of having a bad experience, of spending money on something, fucking it up, not having dinner, like I get that fear.
Totally.
It's happened to me. I mean, there were some recipes that broke me down when I was testing recipes that made me cry. When I was on the 7th version of a simple baked pork tenderloin, which should have been so easy, but I wanted to make sure the glaze was perfect on it. And my
Mhm.
husband's like, we're eating not so great pork tenderloin again.
Yeah.
I was like, go to your mom's. I'll stay home and
Yeah.
eat sad pork tenderloin. So I get that fear, but when you can relax and you can follow a recipe and just have faith in yourself and faith in the cookbook author, that's a really joyful thing. Speaking of joyful, I remember when I worked at the CIA, I knew that if of all the guest chefs we worked with, if I went to a cookbook written by someone like Joyce Goldstein, who used to have Mediterranean or Square One Mediterranean restaurant in San Francisco, and she's written probably 20 cookbooks now. I knew that Joyce diligently tested every recipe, and she'd be doing demos on stage for food that was never going to get tasted by the audience, but she'd taste as she was finishing doing
Yeah.
the demo to make sure she got the flavor profile absolutely perfect. I mean, she's somebody who I just had so much respect for because of her commitment to ensuring that whoever bought her and used her book had a great experience. And I know, Julia Child, from everything I've learned about her, the exact same way. So Linda and I took the same approach with Cooking
Yeah.
a la Art.
Yeah. I mean, and that's important because nothing will sink a person's heart like getting a cookbook and trying to cook something out of it and it doesn't turn out, or it just turns out awful. And you know that you nailed it, right? Like, and just something's off. So,
Yeah.
um, I have two more questions. So throughout the years of cooking and writing and like so for home cooks, what are like some good hacks for like saving time or money in the kitchen for you?
Wow. Okay. Well, saving time,
Mhm.
like buy some canned products, make your life easier. Like I
Yeah.
have a full stock of canned beans. You
Oh,
know,
without a doubt. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because those processors cook them, you're always going to have a creamy, perfectly cooked bean. You're never going to get one of those crunchy ones. And then,
I kind of prefer cooked beans, canned beans.
oh, I do too. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to
I
know like how old is the dry bean if you're going to start
yeah,
with that. But
yeah.
if you don't know, so
Yeah,
yeah, so
if
canned
I'm
beans.
using Gordo Ranch beans, yeah, great. But like most of the time I prefer to use canned. So, yeah.
Well, you said the brand that I trust, Rancho Gordo, turns
Yeah,
their
yeah.
their heirloom beans very quickly. Yeah. But yeah, canned beans. And then the dietitian hack is if you were thinking about sodium, if you're being mindful about sodium for, blood pressure control, drain and rinse them. You can remove up to 35% of the sodium that's used in the canning process. So that's, the dietitian hack. Use the canned beans, drain and rinse them. For saving money, I mean, most of the store brand products out there, like canned beans, the major processor putting out the brand is the same processor putting out the store brand. So you can save
Yep.
money that way. Um, don't be scared to do something like, oh my gosh, the chicken thighs, bone in, skin on are on sale for 99 cents a pound. do a cartwheel in the store, celebrate that price, bring them home, pack them up, freeze them, and then, you got like 3 pounds of chicken thighs to use next week. You can use 3 pounds today. And chicken thighs, man, I mean, should we talk about?
That's all I buy.
Yeah, because delicious, tender, more flavorful.
And honestly, another hack from that is learn to bone out your chicken thighs, save the bones in a bag that you keep in the freezer, and then make stock from it in your Instant Pot or on the stove.
Yep.
And it makes a great stock.
Yep.
And it's free because it's something you're going to throw away anyway. You just put water to it, add, whatever you want to it for, some peppercorns or bay leaf or whatever, and just let it go for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Or if you really want to go, let it go for 4 and really sort of make that sort of bone brothy, unclear stock, which is great and full of collagen. Like,
right.
But that's a great thing to do.
It's a little density to it because of the collagen. Yeah. I love broth like that, and you got a carrot that's gotten a little soft in the back of your vegetable drawer. You got that centerpiece of celery you forgot about. Put that in the stock.
Everybody in the pool. Yep.
Everybody in the pool. Yeah. And I think the other thing in terms of, being mindful about money these days when you're a home cook, don't waste food.
Right.
The average family wastes something like $2,000 a year on food that they throw out.
Yeah.
So pay a little bit more attention to what you have on hand. Make sure you're thinking about proper storage. Like you're driving home from the grocery store and you have a gallon of milk. Don't stop off and get your nails done and leave that milk in the back seat, for an hour and a half. Things like dairy products deteriorate pretty quickly when they're not below 40 degrees. So, and the other side of not wasting money on wasted food, you're also protecting all those resources from our land, from the farmer's time, from the fuels and other inputs that go into growing and producing food. So, this isn't a food waste podcast, but
it
that's
totally
my
is.
Biggest tip. Don't waste food. Don't waste your money.
Yeah. You made meatloaf on Monday. Hey, meatloaf sandwiches on Tuesday, meatloaf tacos on Wednesday, right? Now, like, reuse, repurpose. It's perfectly fine. The food doesn't go bad.
You are in my brain in a significant way. Yeah. I made some meatloaf the other day and I was going to have the last piece for my lunch today, pan fried a little bit, get a little crispy on the edges, My husband ate it last night as like a late night snack. Ooh.
Oh my gosh. All right, real quick then. What do you put in your meatloaf? Is there anything fun that you put in there?
Well, yeah, I put a lot of stuff in. I use lean ground pork, lean ground beef. I add an extra virgin olive oil for rich unctuousness, crushed garlic, finely grated Parmesan. I do fresh breadcrumbs with whatever bread, my husband doesn't eat the heels of bread when he's making his sandwiches. Yeah. So I just grind that up, a little tomato paste. So, and then diced onion that I've cooked beforehand. And sometimes
gotta cook it beforehand. Thank you.
Sometimes I'll put in the celery as well. Sometimes carrot. So, that's kind of my standard. And then a nice light touch as I'm forming it. I usually do mine in like a square 9x9 pan because I like the edges on meatloaf. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's fun. Yeah. I put normally some sort of nut. I love pistachios in mine, chopped pistachios.
All right.
I always chop up some sort of mainly it's prunes. Prunes are my favorite. Chop up prunes and mix that in. And if I have the time or can find them, I'll add a few pureed chicken livers into mine as sort of like an extra binder, but it adds a silkiness because that silky liver gets in between all of the granules of the ground beef and really sort of coats everything. It's really, really nice.
I am fascinated by your use of the prunes and pistachios there. Being
so
a Californian, I'm like, man, I'm seeing like a California growing meatloaf recipe here inspired by you, John.
Yeah. The Rude Cooking School meatloaf. But no, prunes are so awesome. And you just cut them up, probably medium dice. And it adds, they sort of melt into the meat almost. Yep. And it's not like a super hit of like a sweetness. They absorb the meatiness, and prunes aren't super sweet to begin with anyway. So it just adds a layer of like almost like when you do like a really good hot sauce or something, and you add like chilies that sort of have that raisiny flavor, but it doesn't taste like raisins. It's that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
So.
No, I absolutely love that. You've got me thinking now about a little change up on my meatloaf routine.
I only say meatloaf because I'm planning on making it Sunday. So I'm like, all right, what am I going to do this week? Like,
love it.
Cool. All right, I'm going to wrap this up, but I have one more question for you. This is the most important question of the day. This is going to be the most important question you answer all month.
Okay. For the next 30 days or just in September?
In September.
Okay. All right.
We got a couple days. But tomorrow you're going to die. I don't know how it's going to be. Maybe you were bad. We sent you to jail. You're going to the gallows. Maybe, you're you live to 140 and it's just, you're ready to go. But you have one meal left. You get to pick it. Doesn't matter how much it's going to cost. Doesn't matter how little. Doesn't matter how much food. It is open-ended. Drink, dessert, courses, whatever. What is your last meal?
Okay. I want to be at home.
Okay.
I want to have an endless supply of Alaskan king crab.
Okay.
Butter. And then I want molten chocolate cake with fresh whipped cream for dessert. That's it.
Really? You're just going out, no drinks?
Nah.
Wow. Butter. Drawn butter is a drink.
Drawn butter's drink. Crab. Draw it through the butter and then have that molten chocolate cake with the fresh whipped cream. And I'm not saying just a little, dollop of whipped cream. I'm like,
No, it's the last one. Go for it.
I'm going for it.
I really like that. That's a really, really Spartan last dinner. Mm-hmm. And, some people go that way. Some people really indulge. I like just hey, I'm just doing, these are my two. Are they like your two favorite things to eat?
Yeah, absolutely love them. Yeah. And like really great crab, but like crab's kind of an intimate experience, right? Like cracking and getting into it and it's dripping down your arms and you got the butter there. And then the molten chocolate cake that every year on my birthday, which is Valentine's Day, we never go out because it's like a really sad night for dining out. But I make myself my own birthday cake with molten chocolate cake and fresh whipped cream because that's just,
Well, awesome. That's a great answer. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. That was a fun one. I was worried how serious you would be. That was joyful.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you at?
So you can find me at a la heart Amy on Instagram and on Facebook. You can read about my business at farmersdaughterconsulting.com and check out Cooking a la Heart, available at Amazon and everywhere else books are sold.
Anywhere you can buy books.
Anywhere books are sold.
Well, thank you so much again, Amy. I really appreciate it.
This was a fun, joyful, and really smart conversation, John. I enjoyed being your guest today immensely.
Come back anytime. And thank you for listening to the Rude Cooking School podcast. As always, word of mouth is how we get out there. We don't pay for advertising. So tell your family, tell your friends, tell your dog. Tell anybody, put a sign on your car. Write it in soap on the back of your car. I would really appreciate it. But let everybody know how much you like the Rude Cooking School podcast. We are back, as you now know, and there are 300 episodes behind this one. So get in there and get in that library and listen to the old ones. We're found wherever you can find podcasts. Join our Facebook group. It's the only good place in all of Facebook. The rest of it's a cesspool. But the Facebook group is great. It's helpful. People are really funny and really kind and really thoughtful, from stupid food memes about gently used hot dogs to people actually asking genuine questions about their dinner and what they should do. We cover it all, and it's a really righteous place. So add yourself and join the fun. And that'll be it for this week on the Rude Cooking School podcast. Until next week, my name is John Hauser III.
And I'm Amy Myrdal Miller.
There you go. Don't yuck my yum and garbage everything, everybody. See you later. Peace.